So this will be a deck of my Assassins deck. Assassins are definitely my favorite type. They're obviously really suited for an environment where at least one-third of the decks are creatures. Common denominator of almost all creatures in this deck is that they either destroy opponents' creatures when they come into play, or they have potential to do that later in the game. This come into play destroy creature effect is really powerful in tribal format, because it clears opponent board and at the same time develops yours. So normal creature decks can't really compete with this strategy. They either need to be extremely fast, or they need to have untargetable creatures, or they need to have some powerful enchantments or artifacts that win game on its own. Otherwise it's really hard to overcome such card and board disadvantage. As far as card choices, there is a slight synergy between Scarblade Elite and Guardian Assassin. If you have Scarblade Elite out, this basically reads destroy target non-black creatures and target creature. I used to run only 3 copies, but almost nobody plays black, so I added an additional one. Good Res Assassin seems better than he actually is. This deck is quite mana intensive, you're casting stuff every turn and you can't really afford to invest in this guy early on. It's good in the late game, but usually if this deck gets to the late game it's either winning or losing to some annoying enchantment, so he's not really necessary. But there aren't really any better options. The best assassin is probably Murderous Redcap. It's especially good against aggro decks like goblins, because usually it will eat at least 2 of their cards, and it's also very hard to attack into. And against control decks it provides some reach. Fair Macabre might seem like a card that has too narrow applications to be included in the main deck, but I think it's correct to have an effect like this in the current metagame. It's the only answer to Grove the Burn Willow's Punishing Fire combo, which destroys these decks. It's also good against random reanimator strategies, and it's insane against Dirty Duck's core combo deck. And even if you don't need it, it's still a 2-2 flyer, or you can throw it away to Contagion. Gatekeeper and Skin Renders are just there to provide some more card and tempo advantage. As I said, this come into play effect is really powerful in tribal format. And finally there's some instant removal in form of Go for the Throat and Contagion. Contagion is basically there for elves and goblins, because these decks can have some problems with extremely fast decks. The deck is quite inexpensive. Currently it costs 4.5 tickets without basic lands on MTGO traders, so I think for this money there really aren't any better decks, except maybe goblins. But I think this deck is a little more consistent in a tribal metagame. Now if I had an unlimited budget I would play this version. It adds white for Vindicate, Swords of Plowshare, Sand, Path to Exile. The most important additions are definitely 3 Vindicates, because they provide an answer to various threats that the budget version can deal with. For example, cards like Isochron Scepter, Teferi's Moat, and also cards like Grove or Burn Willows, which Fairy Macabre already takes care of somehow, but it never harms to have additional answers. Swords and Pet are not that important, because Black already has good option for killing creatures, but they are definitely more efficient and versatile. For example, they make the deck more resistant to aggro, they can kill a random pro black guy, they deal with Wormcoil Engine and Persist guy, etc. So this was deck. To get an idea how the deck actually performs, I recorded 4 replays from Tribal Apocalypse player run events. In the first 3 games I'm playing against heavy creature decks, which are obviously a great matchup. But the fourth replay showcases a type of deck that is really problematic for this deck.